They had a fire on the first day. On the first day. Just kidding. They didn't actually have a fire on the first day. Welcome back to Girl at the Con. I can't wait to talk to you about Anime Expo. I just got back roughly about a week ago from Anime Expo, and I'm having a little bit of a problem. So Anime Expo was kind of a trip for me. I had a bunch of issues. I've been trying to separate what happened to me from the actual convention so I can give the convention like a fair shake. So I've been sitting here for like a week being like, oh, what do I want to say about that? And, you know, what's this and what's this, and how do I separate this stuff from this stuff, and how did that affect my relationship with this convention? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a two-part thing. So we're going to talk about Anime Expo just by itself, and then I will tell you kind of a travel log of what kind of happened to me and why that may have affected my review of the convention. Sound good? All right, let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is registration. Registration is super important in every convention's life. I believe that if you have people who are going to be panelists, they should get a guest pass if you are a convention that has 100,000 people there. And easily I saw 100,000 people at AX. Your convention that is at a hotel, then yeah, you're small. You're only getting a couple hundred people. You need to make that revenue. I should only be able to get my pass. That's fine. I'm down with that. But for a convention like Comic-Con or AX or Anime LA, I really think that because your size is so large, you should be able to throw us like one guest badge, you know? If you can throw two, great. But at least throw one our way. That would be really great. I have at least two people that I would have loved to have brought to this convention because they're eager to see and experience it. And it would have been great, you know, financially to be able to bring them with me. Then there is, again, smaller hotel type conventions can get away with saying, hey, we want one person to pick up everyone's badge. We don't want to be responsible for everyone's badge. I get that. It's a small convention. The front desk / registration is doing more than just registration. They're also doing front desk. They're dealing with people who come up and they say, hey, I'm having a problem with XYZ, or I have lost, or this, or that. They have to deal with that and registration. It is so much easier to just hand a packet out to somebody and say, give it off to your people. It's up to you now. Great, fine. A convention with 100,000 people and a registration area really should let people pick up their badges individually. Something that size, you're gonna have more people who are showing up at different times. My friend Ellie showed up on Wednesday or Thursday. Jimmy showed up, I think, on Thursday. I showed up on Saturday. It then becomes hard to, in a sea of 100,000 people, track down your person. Or be like, I'm here, well, I'm over here. I don't know the LA Convention Center. AX was quite literally my third time being there. 3. That's it. I have no idea where stuff is. So if you say, I'm at the South Hall, I'm like, great, where the hell is that? I'm over here. I need you to come to me because I have no idea where you are. I know where I am, only because I was standing in front of a 7-Eleven. If I wasn't standing in front of a 7-Eleven, I'd be like, well, I'm here? Wherever here is? Good luck finding me. So yeah, I would have much rather been like, hey, I'm gonna go over to registration. Once I go to registration, we can meet up at merch, or we can meet up here. Something that I should be able to find after going to registration. Also, registration is outside. I don't know how to describe where it is because I don't really understand the layout of the convention center arena downtown plaza thing that they have. Because again, I've only been there 3 times, and one of those times I was 2 of those times I was completely inside. And I never really went outside, so I don't really know where anything is. Wherever they had it, we did pass it one day, and I was like, this is outside. There's no tent for people who are standing in line to get badges. And the badge people didn't even look like they were under a tent. Honestly, if I showed up for work to do registration and they were like, oh, it's outside with no tent, I'd be like, well, it's also outside without me. So see ya. I am super pale. I burn real fast, real fast. I would not stand in line for that. I'd be like, oh, well, I'm not going to AX, because I would be toast. I would be the reddest of red lobsters by the time I got up. I would not want to go to the convention because I'd just be in pain. I don't really like the idea of having it outside. I understand part of that probably has to do with the fact that the convention center is laid out like garbage and is relatively small for the type of convention that they're holding. The LA Convention Center, if you haven't been to it, has got 2 sites. It's got like a West Hall and a South Hall, but no other halls. These 2 halls are great if you have 2 medium to semi-large, like corporate type conventions, or even medical type conventions. It is great for putting on multiple conventions at one time. It is horrible for putting on one large convention because the exhibit halls aren't connected. You have to walk through this like hallway tunnel thing to get south to the west halls. Really do not like the setup of the LA Convention Center. And I think it is a detriment to Anime Expo. I think if AX were to move to a larger, better set up convention, I think a lot of the issues that I have with some of the things that they did would be ironed out. It would fix so much. But I don't see them leaving downtown LA anytime soon. The other issue that I had with them is the nickel and diming of their convention goers. I say that because this is a convention of 100,000 people. They very clearly had a sponsor because every time I opened the app would shove this waifu thing in my face. So very clearly, these people were sponsoring them. Not to mention, there was a table in the open air area of the South Hall, I think, for the Japanese airline, and Ana Air was also there. There are some big corporations that were very clearly giving them money. They should not have to then be like, oh, if you want to go to the Idol, I don't know if it was competition or just a show, if you want to go to that, you have to pay money. If you want to go to the Masquerade, you have to pay money. By the time I went to look at the Masquerade tickets, they were $10, but they were all $10 or $11, but they were all in the back. Now, somebody had said that the tickets were $40, and I'm assuming those were tickets that were much closer to the stage than the ones I was looking at, because ones I was looking at were like in the very, very back. And granted, they're using the crypto arena. You should be able to rent out the crypto arena without having to charge your patrons to go to a show that honestly, in my opinion, should be free. Ticketed, sure, but ticketed for free. You know, Comic-Con tickets their stuff, some of their stuff. It's a free ticket, but you still have to get it because otherwise they run the risk of having too many people in one area. I get that. I get it. But honestly, come on. You should not be charging your attendees for every little thing. I really liked that they had a 21 and up venue. It's basically like a little area be checked, or you can get a wristband where they check your ID, and then you go inside and they've got a bar, some food vendors. You can sit there and talk and have a drink, and it's out of the way. It's a little quieter. They've also sectioned off. You go into this other room, and in that room, there's like a stage, and they will have people performing, or they will have people drawing using projectors and stuff. Hentai artist, so it's 21 and up. Love that. I think that that was great. Beautiful. I kind of wish more conventions had like these adult spaces. And it kind of shows that AX is not the type of anime convention where you get a bunch of like tweens. Like, I hardly saw any young people there. I saw a couple of toddlers, of which I do not recommend bringing toddlers to a show that has 100,000 people, because in my opinion, that's a great way to lose a kid, because your kid darts off and runs away from you, and and then your kid is now everybody's problem. I also don't like strollers, but that's a subject for another day. The other thing that they have that I wish more people would do, is they had a quiet room that was actually quiet. It was one of the big like meeting rooms with a bunch of tables and chairs, and their one rule was nobody could sleep in there. Not that I didn't see people sleeping in there, but you weren't supposed to. So you would go in and sit down, and you could talk to your friend for a little bit. You can just be quiet, read a book. I think it's really good because as we are getting to be so crazy in social media and things like that, sometimes people can get really overwhelmed by the amount of people, especially when you have a show that is like 100,000 people. So it's really nice to go up there and just sit down and just be like, ugh, I'm done. I just want to rest for a little bit before I go out into this maw of people. So I really enjoyed that. The two places that I thought were just great. In the middle of the day, could just be like, I need a glass of wine, or I need a beer, go down there. Or I'm just so overwhelmed that I need to be in a place where it is quiet, or relatively quiet. It was pretty quiet, even with my friend and I talking and some other people that were talking. It just was not that loud. Props to AX for those two things. Absolutely love it. Are you gonna help me? Come here. Come here. Scarlett, come say hi. Come here. Say hi. Say hi. Just lie down, okay? It's a good girl. So AX does what Comic-Con does, and they have RFIDs in their badges. So you tap your badge when you're entering or exiting, and it pops up green or it pops up red. You can go in and you can move in from there. Because they had that, they were able to do some outdoor spaces that were part of the convention. So they had a beer garden, which when we went had some taiko drums and some dancing going on. None of the food there looked all that interesting to me, but I'm not into like fish and squid and stuff. They mostly had Japanese street food like that, and that just wasn't me. So we ended up going over to where they had the food trucks. Again, we had to tap, I think, to leave the beer garden, then we had to tap again to get into where the food trucks were. And the food trucks had like an outdoor stage that was doing karaoke. This one guy sounded like he was killing a cat or a dog or something. It was a crime against humanity either way. It was just awful. I don't think I've ever heard anything so awful in all my life. But they had some really, really good food. We found a truck that was doing yakisoba. Mine was supposed to come with pork, and I immediately read that as will come with pork the same way pork and beans will come with pork. And I was like, oh, this is going to be the thinnest, tiniest piece of pork I have ever seen all my life. And I was pretty close. It was pretty thin. It was long. It was that big, something like that. And it was thin. Because I knew this was going to be the situation, I ordered a pork belly skewer, popped that into my yakisoba, so it was really good. And it had really good flavor and everything. While we were sitting, I saw a sign that was like, yakisoba dog, and I was like, oh, what is that? Thankfully, I got my question answered. As we were finishing up, this guy came over looking for seats for him and his two other friends, and we were like, well, hey, we're getting ready to leave, so you can just sit here. And he had a yakisoba dog, so I was able to take a picture and some video of him eating his yakisoba dog, and it was basically just yakisoba in a bun, although it did look like it had some chunks of like pork or something in it. So, but I really liked that outside area as well. I thought that that was really cool. One of the other things that I really got a kick out of was that they had 18 and up panels after 9 o'clock. I like this for a lot of ways, because there are conventions where I have had to do a panel and I've had to really, not necessarily dumb it down, but definitely tone it down. General idea when you do a panel, you want to rate everything PG-13 when you do it. When you're talking about Japanese queer media, it's really helpful to be able to do like an 18 and up panel, because you're talking about stuff that can get kind of risque, kind of adult. One picture that we had in our slide deck I found, and I would not have been able to put that in our panel at any other convention. And I put it in as a joke because my friend was like, well, I don't want to have to change these slides out every time we do the panel. And I was like, okay. But I found this image and I really wanted to use it. So I put it on top of the image she already had so that she can just pull it off and delete it when we go to do our next panel. But it was very adult, and I would not have been able to show that at any other convention. But I really like the idea of having adults-only panels. If you're a convention that is doing more late-night stuff, I think that that's genius, especially if you're going to charge people to go to your evening stuff, like the masquerade or the idol thing. Have panels that they can go to, you know? Have something opposite the thing you're charging people to go see. Like, I am not going to pay to go to the masquerade. No matter how much I love masquerade competitions, I'm not going to pay for that. So I would rather go to a panel that is 18 and up, that is more risque. You know, I would much rather go to that's free than pay to go to this thing where I'm going to be, you know, paying to sit in the back and watch people perform. Just not my thing. One of the other things that I want more conventions to do this, is they had an area where you can take photos. They're like backdrops, but they're not just plain, you know, backdrops. They're not a step and repeat. They're not a vinyl that's got a star field or whatever. These had three-dimensional sort of things that you could take pictures in. The one I really wanted to do had a Japanese type screen, like the way the traditional houses are made out of like the paper. Then it had cherry blossom trees. They had like a subway system type thing, like a Japanese subway system. They had a school, because I think their thing for this year was a school. They had a couple of others. And that way you could take your costume and you could could wear it in this thing that was more three-dimensional than just being outside or being with some sort of backdrop. Absolutely loved it. Sadly, by the time I got to it, I was in no shape to stand in line to get pictures, and the one where I wouldn't have had to stand in line was the space one, and I've already got tons of stuff with me behind a star field. I did not see any step and repeats that I could have shot in front of or anything like that, which is really sad because I would have really have liked that. I usually try to get a picture, even though this year it wouldn't have been usable because my hair looked awful because of the humidity and the heat in downtown LA. Next video. I will talk about that in the next video. Anyway, but I really love that. I thought that that was such a great idea to have these three-dimensional backdrops that you could shoot in and things like that. I thought it was a really great idea. I wasn't super excited with where they put the Artist Alley, only because I personally don't know the LA Convention Center that well, and I never would have thought to look in the basement to find the Artist Alley. Now, I get down there and it's packed, because if you've ever been to an anime convention, Artist Alleys are usually the thing. Everybody and their brother is down there at the Artist Alley. And definitely everybody was at the Artist Alley at this one. On Saturday when we were there, it was so packed that I was like, I don't think I want to be here. I wanted to be there because I wanted to get a time lapse, but I sadly, like, somebody had just thrown up in the food area, and there was no seating like close to where people were, so I wouldn't have been able to get like a good time lapse anyway. I went back on Sunday to get this one shot just to give you an idea of just how large this is. I'm quite literally in the center of the hall when I did this, the dead center. It was large, and I thought that that was super awesome. If I had had more energy on Sunday, I probably would have wanted to look around, but it just didn't do anything for me at the time. Maybe next year if I go back. So I do want to talk about the shuttles, because I have a little bit of a problem here. Our shuttle was Route 1. The first time we went on it, it took no time at all for it to show up. I think we only waited at the hotel for maybe 5-10 minutes, if that. And it showed up, we picked up some other places, and we went back. That wasn't too bad. But when I asked how frequently the shuttles run, I was told every 20 to 40 minutes. Okay, there needs to be more consistency with that. It should be every 20 minutes or every 30 minutes or every 40 minutes. It should have a set time. Pick what you want and set it for that. Don't make it where it's like, oh, well, we don't go out until the bus is X full, which is what I think they were doing, which is why it was every 20 to 40 minutes. At the end of the night, on Saturday night, we're done with our panel. We have talked to everybody who came to see our panel, which was great. I loved my panel. And all the people who went to see it, you were all great. Thank you so much. Anyway, at the end of the night, we went over to where we were going to get on our shuttle, and the line for Route 1 went almost all the way to the Marriott. It was stupidly long. At the end of the night, your destination management company should put more buses on the route because you're going to have more people. Every destination management company, and if you don't know, these are the companies that typically run the buses for your event. Every destination management company that I have ever worked with usually does more buses in the morning, more buses in the afternoon, light buses in the middle of the day. You have them running every 10 minutes in the morning, every 30 minutes during the day, and every 10 minutes or more at night. because the morning and the evening, that's when everybody is getting up and coming to the convention center. And in the middle of the day, you have hardly anybody who's going to be going back to their hotel. So it should be no problem for those people to wait 20, 30 minutes to go back to their hotel, okay? Why they didn't do that, I do not know. It's crazy to me that they did not do that, because that line was stupidly long. We ended up going back to the Marriott, waiting for my friend's friend to get done showering or whatnot, and then he drove us back to the hotel because he needed something from, it's complicated, I'm not getting into it. But there was a reason he was going to drive us. He was going to go to the hotel to see us anyway, so there was a reason to do it. AX, you watching? Get a new destination management company, because the one you got now is not doing you any favors, period. There were a lot of things that I enjoyed and a lot of things I didn't enjoy, and it's like such a mixed bag. The pins, I kind of wish they had had better pins. So I got a 3-pack, which is the mascots, and those say Anime Expo 2025 on it. I got this one, which is their yearly pin. That's a piece of bread that says the same thing. I don't understand the bread thing, but, you know, it was an AX pin, and I wanted something to represent. I didn't like the shirt. They had a ton of merchandise, which is great, but it was all stuff that I wasn't into. They had like some kimono top pajama things. I think they had like a waifu-y pillow, play mats, stuff like that. None of it was anything I wanted. Some of it was pricier than I was willing to spend. So I just didn't get anything. I think I would have really have liked a t-shirt that was more representative of like the convention. They've got these cute mascots. I would have liked a t-shirt that had maybe the mascots on it. They had like a featured artist that did a bunch of stuff, and I did not dig the representation on the shirt. That was more of a me than anything else. But yeah, if they had had a shirt with these cute ass mascots on it, I would have been all over it. They just didn't have that. So it is what it is. I do have to talk about AX's app because I have opinions. To start, I really like some of how the app is laid out. I think it is very bright. It is got a not dark or anything. I want to say it's fairly easy to use right before I'm about to tell you that I had problems using it. Initially, once you turn it on, you get the sponsor information, which got really old really fast. I do not like the sponsor information. It was like waifu-y stuff, and I do not like the waifuification of anime. It just drives me batty. You have that, and once that goes away, or you can skip past that, you're left with 3 things, and initially, I'm sitting there looking at these 3 blocks that are like entertainment, what to do, and something else. I could not find anything else. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, why are these the only things? And why is one of those directing me to all of the paid stuff? And there was a lot of paid stuff. Like, I just found it so hard. I was just trying to get to the program. And I was like, why is there not a program in here? And my friend's like, oh, the merch is in there too. And I'm like, where? I can't find it. It took me 2 days before I realized that up in the corner, they had the 3 bars that opened up to another, a pull-out that had all the information on it. I was like, where the hell? It should be easier. Everything should not be hidden in that thing. I think that there's a better way. I'm not an app designer, but I feel like there's a better way to set that up. The other thing I didn't like about it is you get notifications. You can turn on notifications. I turned on notifications just because, I don't know, I turned on notifications. I normally don't turn on notifications with apps. It's definitely reminded why I don't turn on notifications. They sent me almost 100 notifications in 4 days. And some of these notifications were things like reminding me to drink water. What the fuck? It reminds me of when I went to Phoenix Comic Con, and their PA system would get on super loud and remind people that XYZ was now signing photographs or signing shit and taking pictures. Head over to go see XYZ. And then 5 minutes later, you'd get, hey, there's YYY over here doing this thing. Don't forget to go to YYY. On and on and on. I was talking to somebody I knew who was a vendor, and we would have to stop our conversation to let them finish their overhead PA announcement. And some of them were really long. Like 2 or 3 people would get on and talk about like whatever. And that's, no. Some of these announcements that were in here should not have been announcements. They had one about the fire, of which I was like, props. That's something I wanted to know about. The fire was not a fire, by the way. The fire was a fan belt that had come loose or something and had caused a bunch of smoke. That is something I want an announcement for. Reminding me to drink water is not something I want an announcement for. Reminding me to check panel information, again, so many of their announcements were pointless. I want to say on the first day I got like 30 or 40 announcements. It was just nuts. I think my thing says 74 right now. That doesn't include the ones that I read. Those are just the ones that are left unread. So I want to say that I got close to 100. It was insane. It's still a very bright app. I think with some tweaking, it could be an excellent app. I wish Comic-Con's app were like this. Well, I wish it was bright like this. I think Comic-Con's app has got a little bit more going for it. Like, it's not a bad app. Once you figure out how to use it, it's actually quite a good app. It's got everything that you could need on it. There's a couple of things I would probably do, but it's probably outside of what AX is willing to spend to update, so it's whatever. All in all, I want to say Anime Expo it's a mixed bag. Like, they have a lot of great stuff going for them, and they have a lot of stuff that is just holding them back from being a really great convention. I think that I know that the reason their registration is outside is because their convention center is too small for them. The fact that they don't have it under any sort of tenting, I think, is a travesty. It could not possibly be that much to rent a tent to put your registration in. And I'm sure that there's a way you can talk to the fire marshal about doing that and having that set up. That could be fixed. The signage could also be fixed. There were a lot of times there I could not figure out where I was going, and the signs were just like, go there. Okay, but like, how? Give me a sign that points in a direction, something. That aspect of it, I could have. The fact that you have to pay for so much, anything outside of your typical convention stuff, i.e. sort of entertainment, you have to pay for. I don't like the fact that if I want to go to, I've always wanted to go to an idol thing, or at least always in the last couple of years wanted to go to an idol thing. I love going to masquerades. Had I not had a panel opposite and had I not had to pay, I would have gone to the masquerade. But I'm not going to pay to go to a masquerade. I'm not going to pay to go to an idol show. I'll fight to get tickets to go to these things, but I'm not going to pay for them. Stuff I'm kind of wish that they had, or they didn't choose to charge it. I feel like they could update their app, and they really need to talk to their destination management company about the shuttles. So, but I love the 21 and up. I love the quiet room. I really appreciate how much is going on there. They have a beer garden. They have this outdoor food truck area with a stage that has various things going on it. They have various companies that are doing pop-up for animes. There was one with Bearology for Spy X Family. There was one for Yakuza, the video game Yakuza, where they would take you in a rickshaw type thing. Not a rickshaw. What's it called? I think it is called a rickshaw. They would take you down to Little Tokyo so that you could do this thing, this pop-up in Little Tokyo. I thought that that was a great idea. There was a lot of stuff that had I been there longer, I probably would have done, like the rickshaw thing. There's a lot of really great stuff. It's the other stuff, it's the small stuff that is holding them back. And they do come off as a little disorganized. Thank you so much for sitting through this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had a good time. Again, I want to shout out all the people that came to my panel. I really appreciate you all. I'm super humbled that so many people came and so many people were friendly and generous and kind to me and to my panel people. After the weekend I had, it really meant a lot to me. Watch the next video because I'm going to get into more of what happened to me and why I may not have been as generous as I could be to Anime Expo because of what happened. But again, thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.